Whoa! Hey, it's Matt with the Film Poets. I've loved the original Ronin-S since it first came out, and up until today, it's been the best single-handed gimbal that I've ever used. But today, we're gonna look at improvements that the second generation of gimbals brings. We'll also be doing some scientific tests to see which gimbal is the most stable. DJI sent me both of these before they were released, but as you'll see, it's not going to affect my opinions on everything, so we'll have an honest review. Now, DJI are calling these models the RS2, and you have the smaller RSC2. One of the first things you'll notice about these is there are now screens on the back. The RS2 has a 1.4-inch full-color touchscreen. This makes it very easy to change your settings and tweak things, but it's almost too easy. You can accidentally bump it from time to time and just start auto-tuning or something. So a little tip is to tap the power button once, and this will lock your screen, and this will keep you from accidentally changing your settings during a shoot. Now, the RSC2 has a smaller screen, and it has to be adjusted using dials. It's not a touch screen. This may be an advantage because you're less likely to accidentally engage it. Now let's talk about the payload increases. The original Ronin-SC payload was limited because a mid-sized camera would bump into the cage, but all that's changed with the RSC2. It can operate larger setups like a Canon R5 and a zoom lens, and has zero issues inverting. The payload of the bigger RS2 is nearly 10 pounds, so it can easily take a 1DX and even a C500 with the smaller batteries. But you also have size and weight decreases. The RS2 is 35% lighter than the original version, and this makes a huge difference for longer shots. The RSC2 has this great foldable design. I'm able to fit a full-size camera, a lens, and the gimbal in a Peak Design messenger bag. Aside from the screen, the controls in the front are the same. The new joystick design is low profile and it's wide. I really like this because you have much smoother control when using your thumb. The record button can be used to trigger the record with your thumb while you're operating the gimbal, but you do have to connect your camera to the gimbal. But there is a new reason to attach your Ronin to the camera, and that's this built-in front dial. It's super smooth and easy to turn, and it can be used to adjust things like focus. You can do iris pulls, you can change your ISO, and you can even control an external focus motor. So far, these are all nice improvements, but none of that matters if a gimbal can't create smooth shots. Now, the sauce that makes any gimbal perform a certain way is the algorithm that the motors use to correct for the motion. DJI has developed a new Titan algorithm, so we're gonna find out how well it operates, compare the gimbals to each other, and we'll also compare it to the original Ronin-S to see what kind of improvements we have. Here we have a clearly defined horizon with a central target. I did this to exaggerate any movement and jitters so that the performance will be obvious. Also keep in mind that we're walking over bumpy ground towards a target. Real-world use will look much better. So at 24mm, the original Ronin-S does a fine job. But we can see that the RSC2, even though it's smaller, improves on that. And the RS2 is even more stable. So 50mm, things start to heat up a bit. The original Ronin-S is showing a bit of drift and a lot of bounce. But surprisingly, the RSC2 improves on that, and the RS2 does an amazing job of minimizing bounce. But it gets better. Now, DJI has this new feature called Super Smooth. This enhances the stabilization, but by default it's turned off, and I've noticed that every time you power down, it's off again. So it seems like DJI is a little bit timid about this setting. And I think the reason is because it turns out that the Super Smooth is less forgiving of user errors in balancing and tuning. You need perfect balance, and your lenses must be supported in the front using the lens strap that they provide. But I have found that you can get amazing results that beat every other test that I did. And you can see right here the improvement that the RS2 with Super Smooth has over the original Ronin-S. Now when we take this to the real world, we can get some incredible shots. Here I tapped the back of the camera screen to rack focus, and the RS2 didn't skip a beat. Now a couple things here. The manual says that you need to auto-tune after you engage Super Smooth. But if you can remember to support the lens in the front, this mode performed the best in all the tests. Now there are NATO mounts on both gimbals. The RS2 has communication ports on each side, whereas the RSC2 just has the mount. So DJI has new extension arms and they have a ton of mounting options. There's cold shoe mounts and 1/4 threads all over. The arm on one of them can be bent backwards to shoot in briefcase mode. It's useful when you want to shoot about waist height and much easier than lowering the single-handed setup. But a better way that I've found is to flip the arms over, mount your extension arms pointing upwards, and now you have 2 sets of grips for 2 different shooting heights. There's a cool new cartridge design on the RS2 and allows you to carry around multiple batteries. And after shooting a full 12-hour wedding day, I found that I still had some battery left. There are certain situations where remote control of the gimbal is needed, and that's where the Raven Eye comes in. So the Raven Eye slides right up under this main arm, and DJI provided a set of cables that are the perfect length for a clean setup. You get remote control of the gimbal's tilt, pan, and roll axis, which can be useful for things like mounting to a car. Now we all know balancing gimbals can be frustrating, but thankfully both models have locking axis that make it much easier to balance your gimbal by isolating each axis at a time. I do like the fine-tuning knob for the tilts on the RS2, but you do need to be careful because the plastic gears on this can strip if you forget to release them and push too hard. I also wish you could disable the mode button right here. I hit this thing all the time. This is really frustrating, and I wish you could lock it in the same way that you can lock the screen on the RS2. Okay, so which one to get? Or do you even need to upgrade if you have the original Ronin-S? Since RSC2 has increased payload, if you're shooting with mirrorless and you need to stay light with travel, you can do that but still use a full-size mirrorless camera. I think it's a great choice and it performs better than the original Ronin-S, and it's much smaller and lighter and more affordable. But if you're okay with a slightly larger setup, the RS2 has better stabilization, better features. It can handle much larger payloads if you need, but that does come at a higher price. I found the build quality and feel of the RS2 is nicer to me. I especially love the carbon fiber arms. So if you have the original Ronin-S, I think the RS2 is a clear upgrade in performance. There's a weight reduction, but at the same time, there's a performance increase. So there you go. Let me know which model you think performed best in the test. Also, keep in mind that I'll be releasing a settings guide on both models to help get you started and dialed in. So subscribe for that, and until next time, have fun shooting.